with WCW announcing the big main event of Hogan vs. Luger a week in advance, in addition to big promotion for its first 3-hour special, while Raw is coming the day after SummerSlam and starting an hour later. August 4th was the most hyped week in the Monday Night Wars to date, with every record on target on the night. Hogan and Bischoff opened the show, hyping the main event, with WCW coming on the 100th edition of Nitro while countering any possible Raw momentum with an additional hour to go against it from 10 to 11, advertising a stacked broadcast for tonight as outside of the Luger-Hogan title match, WCW heavily hyped Sting to appear and sign the contract to wrestle his first match in a year, in addition to a major surprise from the Steiners and the first Ric Flair vs. Dallas Page match. In the first test of the opportunity to draw huge viewership in the unopposed hour for both companies, WCW started with a big 4.1 rating already from the first quarter and stayed in that range throughout, while the effect on Raw's numbers will only be known next week when WCW is back to its 2-hour format. The rest of the first hour saw the continuation of the Raven Richards angle, and Giant in a 3-on-1 handicap match, along with a Randy Savage promo in the final build to the Savage Giant pay-per-view match. Coming off the second biggest pay-per-view of the year on its new start time, Raw opened with new WWF champion Bret Hart coming out after going over Taker last night with Michaels' interference to win the title. But the big talking point coming out of the show was a near tragedy that happened in the match before it, with Steve Austin laying in the ring temporarily paralyzed after a mispositioned pile driver saw him land on his head in the final minutes of the match. The Hart Foundation started the show, including the reveal of Slaughter as the new commissioner, turning it into an angle with Owen cutting a promo on Austin saying that he had him beat and ended his career, calling out Austin to hand him the belt or he will take him out again, in addition to setting up Bret vs. Patriot for the title in the Ground Zero pay-per-view. Austin eventually came out with questions on his condition still not clear just 24 hours after the accident, after being taken to a New Jersey hospital last night, saying that he doesn't need any doctoral approval to set up the rematch. Lex Luger came out to start WCW's first head-to-head hour, saying that tonight is a career-defining night, promising to beat Hogan and win the belt. With WCW starting big and averaging a 4.1 rating in the unopposed hour, the first clear sign of the boosted interest on the record-breaking night was the first opposed quarter, as the segment, which included the Luger promo and Chris Benoit vs. Syxx, maintained the entire unopposed audience, starting with a 4.1 rating against Raw, by far the biggest opening quarter in history. The second quarter saw both shows staying in the same strong viewership, with Raw having Ken Shamrock vs. Kama going 3 minutes, and WCW with a Booker vs. Vincent match along with a Page promo, hyping his 2 upcoming matches against Curt Hennig at Road Wild and Ric Flair later tonight. Next on Raw was a 2-match quarter with Taka vs. Brian Christopher and Triple H vs. Vader, along with Slaughter giving Pillman the dress to wear later after losing the stipulation match to Goldust. While pay-per-view buys are still not available, SummerSlam was a big success at the gate, drawing a sellout crowd of over 20,000 people with big merchandise sales at the Continental Airlines Arena in New Jersey. After hyping a surprise for the last hour and a half, the Steiners came out to a big reaction in front of a hometown crowd in Michigan, revealing it to be the returning Ted DiBiase walking to the ring alongside Rick and Scott. DiBiase hyped the Steiners Outsiders pay-per-view match, saying that he made some bad choices, but Saturday he's gonna be in their corner and rip apart what he helped build. Hall and Nash came out saying that DiBiase didn't understand the for-life part in the NWO, so they're gonna take him out along with the Steiners, with DiBiase saying that he knows more about them than anyone and the Steiners will be ready, as Nash closed the promo saying that the only reason the Steiners called Ted is to have someone on the road to read their menus, in the final segment to one of the most hyped tag matches of the year after months of build-up. After staying in the 4.1 to 4.2 rating range since the start of the show, WCW jumped big to a 4.6 rating at 9:50 as Eric Bischoff came out cutting a promo on Larry and Giant while calling out J.J. Dillon, sending a message threatening Larry and telling him that if Giant puts another finger on him he will sue him for everything he will ever own. The Bischoff-Dillon confrontation, in addition to the previous tag match, gained over 600,000 viewers, with the 4.6 for the segment just 0.1 from the all-time opposed rating record set on June 2 with a combination of a Ric Flair vs. Scott Hall match and a Savage segment. Raw's big segment of the night came at the top of the now second hour at 10 p.m., as Shawn Michaels came out for the follow-up promo to the SummerSlam main event. Shawn, who already came out to a mixed reaction, addressed the crowd saying that everybody blames him while not taking responsibility, with Vince asking if, as crazy as it sounds, he's in cahoots with Bret Hart, as Michaels responded saying that McMahon might be the dumbest SOB he has ever met, with Vince then announcing Taker vs. Michaels for the Ground Zero pay-per-view next month. The second half of the promo saw Shawn officially cementing himself as a heel, saying that Bret needs him because he's the only one who beat him, hyping the Taker match as the first time they will meet after all their time in the company together, and the crowd for turning on him after everything he did in the last 10 years. The Michaels heel turn promo, along with Taker's response and Bearer hyping Kane's eventual debut, jumped over 900,000 viewers to peak the night for Raw with a 3.2 rating. WCW had another fireworks show to signal for the first time on the start of the third hour, with the company planning a loaded-up final hour starting with the first ever Ric Flair vs. Dallas Page match. Raw had Slaughter getting an update from a doctor on Austin's condition and Ahmed Johnson vs. Chainz next, with Johnson going over in his return match, ending up with the nation turning on Johnson. With Ahmed not fully healed from his knee surgery, the angle was set up to give him more time off and eventually return on the babyface side in September. Flair and Page crossed over 2 quarters to start the third hour, going 9 minutes with Curt Hennig interfering for the DQ and Page clearing the ring in the final build to the Hennig-Page pay-per-view match. In a quarter which also included a 5-minute cruiserweight tag match with the Villanos against Garza and Lizmark. One of Raw's hyped segments on the night was to see Pillman coming out in a dress after losing to Goldust last night, with Slaughter forcing him to wear it and pushing him out on stage in a match against Bob Holly, with the stipulation that he has to wear it until he wins a match. By then, the interest was on TNT as Raw dropped to a 2.5 rating while WCW jumped huge. WCW's two big segments of the night that were promoted all week were saved to the final half hour, first with J.J. Dillon coming out for the Sting match contract. Dillon said that WCW needs Sting to come back to the ring and offered him a contract to wrestle Curt Hennig in his first match back in the year. Sting came down from the ceiling with the crowd buzzing for the return, ending up with him ripping up the contract and walking away. The quarter for the Sting-Dillon segment, along with a Michael Buffer main event introduction and Lex Luger's entrance, saw WCW jump over 800,000 viewers from already near peak levels to an all-time record 4.9 rating, with the main event coming up next. Promoted throughout the show as an Austin vs. Owen rematch, but with hints on Austin's condition as an out of it, Bret Hart was on commentary and Mick Foley as Dude Love replaced Austin in the main event, with the Owen-Foley match going 12 minutes against a record viewership on TNT. Austin was eventually out in the final 2 minutes to cost Owen the match, with him and the company working around his limitations by not having him involved in any physicality yet with his official status unknown. Raw on its first show in the new time slot did a 2.7 rating, with the big test of how much the unopposed second hour will boost the overall number starting next week. Hollywood Hogan came out 15 minutes from the top of the hour with mega hype for the Luger vs. Hogan match promoted all week as the biggest match in show history, going 11 minutes in the main event with Luger going through the entire NWO to put Hogan in the rack as the building exploded for the title change. With the entire WCW roster coming out for the post-match celebration in one of the most memorable moments in Nitro history on its 100th show. Showing both groups in separate locker rooms with Hogan hyping the rematch in 5 days at Road Wild. The match picked up over 500,000 viewers from the already all-time peak segment to a record 5.2 rating, the highest rated segment in Monday Night War's history. With the show overall smashing every opposed record, drawing a huge 4.3 rating, along with the show replay which aired right after the live broadcast from 11 to 2. Set its all-time record with a 2.3 rating for the Hogan vs. Luger match replay at nearly 2 a.m., as the combined viewership of 7.2 rating between both shows also set its all-time record, with WCW doing a 4.5 to Raw's 2.7 head-to-head.